It's been 10 years since that day, but I still hear the screams, still feel the terror. My name's Lucas, and I was 16 when I lost my two brothers. This is a story I've never told anyone, and maybe I shouldn't be telling it now, but it's time to let it out. We grew up in a small town surrounded by thick woods. My older brother Jake was 18, and he had always been the tough one, the bully of the family, always picking on me and our younger brother Sam, who was 13. Jake thought he was invincible. You know the type, he couldn't be wrong and nothing could scare him. He made sure to remind us of that every day. In 2015, there was a rumor going around town. You see, deep in those woods, there lived an old woman. People said she was a witch, the kind of story that parents tell their kids to keep them from wandering too far. Stay out of the woods, my mom would warn, or the witch will get you. But there was more to it. People said she had a pet, something mean, something hungry that roamed the woods with her, waiting for anyone stupid enough to cross her. Of course, Jake didn't believe a word of it. He said it was all a bunch of nonsense to scare us, to make us behave. Sam, though, he was terrified. He wouldn't even go near the woods, and Jake would always mock him for it. "It's just an old hag in a shack," Jake would say, "probably living off the grid or something." But one afternoon, Jake had had enough of the rumors. "We're going to prove it's fake," he said, a determined look in his eyes. "You two are coming with me." He didn't ask, he demanded. I didn't want to go, but I wasn't going to let Sam go alone. So I went to keep an eye on him, even though our parents had told us time and time again to stay away from that part of the woods. We walked for what felt like hours, pushing through the dense trees and overgrown brush. Sam was already nervous, flinching at every little sound. I stayed close to him, trying to keep him calm, but Jake just marched ahead like this was all a joke to him. Finally, we found it, the old woman's house. It looked exactly how you'd imagine a witch's house would look. The windows were cracked, the roof sagging, and weeds grew wildly around the yard. The place felt wrong, like the air was heavier there. Jake, being Jake, didn't hesitate. He marched right up to the door and knocked. 3 loud bangs that echoed through the silent woods. I wanted to turn around to grab Sam and leave right then, but before I could, the door creaked open. The woman who stepped out was like something from a nightmare. Her back was hunched, her skin pale and leathery, with deep, sunken eyes that seemed to see right through you. Her voice was raspy, like nails scraping over stone. "What do you want?" she croaked, glaring at Jake. Jake, of course, wasn't intimidated. "People say you're a witch," he said, smirking, "and that you've got some kind of monster pet. Is that true?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes moved to me, then to Sam, who was trembling behind me. She looked back at Jake and stepped out of the doorway, leaning on an old broom. "Go home," she said, her voice low, "before you regret it." Jake laughed. "You're not scaring us, old lady. We're not leaving until you tell us the truth." I tried to pull him back, told him we should just leave her alone. But Jake shoved me off. He was getting angrier, pushing her for answers, getting more disrespectful with every word. That's when she snapped. The old woman raised her broom and swung it at Jake, trying to chase us off. But Jake, he pushed her down, hard. She hit the ground with a painful thud, and that's when I saw the look in her eyes. Not just anger. Something else, something dark. As we took off running, she screamed after us, "You're going to pay for that." We ran, but not before I heard something else. Something deep, almost like a growl. I didn't say anything, hoping it was just my imagination. When we stopped to catch our breath, Jake and I got into it. I was furious. "What the hell is wrong with you? You pushed her down. She's an old woman." "She was crazy," Jake shot back, his chest heaving. "You saw her." But before we could argue anymore, Sam started freaking out. He grabbed my arm, his voice trembling. Lucas, there's something in the woods." I looked over, and that's when I saw it too. Something big, moving in the shadows, pacing back and forth like it was waiting for the right moment. The air suddenly felt colder, and then we heard it. A howl. A deep, guttural sound that pierced through the trees and made my blood run cold. Jake's face went pale, but he tried to brush it off. "It's nothing. Just a dog or something." But it wasn't just a dog. Out of the shadows, yellow eyes appeared, glowing, predatory eyes. The thing stepped forward, and my heart nearly stopped. It was huge, standing on two legs covered in matted fur. It looked like some kind of wolf, but it wasn't. It was something worse. Its teeth were sharp, its claws even sharper. I knew right away this was her pet, the thing the old woman had warned us about. "Run!" I screamed, but it was already too late. The creature lunged at Sam first, knocking him to the ground. He didn't even have time to scream before it tore into him. Blood splattered the trees, and I could hear bones snapping. I was frozen. My legs wouldn't move. Jake tried to help him, but the beast was too fast. It swiped at him, knocking him down like he was nothing. I watched in horror as it ripped him apart, literally tore him limb from limb. The woods were filled with their screams, and there was nothing I could do. I ran. I don't know how, but I ran faster than I ever thought possible. I didn't stop until I burst through the front door of our house, slamming it behind me and collapsing on the floor. The last thing I remember before passing out was the sound of that howl, echoing in the distance. I woke up in the hospital. My dad was sitting next to me, his face pale, his eyes full of sorrow. He told me that they had found pieces of my brothers. Their heads had been left on the porch, staring at the front door as if the creature had left them for me. Their bodies scattered in the woods. To this day, I don't go near the woods. I don't talk about what happened, but now you know. The witch and her dog were real, and they took my brothers from me. The end. Thank you all for tuning in to Cryptid Encounters. I truly appreciate your support in listening to these thrilling stories. If you enjoyed the content, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If there are any stories you'd love to see covered, feel free to comment below with your suggestions. Until next time.